What's going on, everybody? GemMint here, and welcome to part 3 of my Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles read-through. This is the end of the Mirage era. Feel so happy to have read the entire original TMNT series. I got that under my belt, and I'm looking forward to jumping into the IDW stuff. But like with the other videos, I'm going to go through this compendium issue by issue. However, with some of the one-shots or kind of side stories, I didn't feel like it was necessary to go through the entire plot, so we kind of just cover those lightly, but we definitely get into the big 13-part finale, City of War. If you guys are digging these videos, hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed to the channel, and hit that bell for notifications, and let's jump into the end of the Mirage era. All right, guys, the third and final compendium, the end of the Mirage run of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird, but you can see they have even more creators helping them here. You have Jim Lawson, Rich Hedden, Tom McWeeney, Matt Howarth, Rick McCollum, Bill Anderson, Paul Jenkins, A.C. Farleyy, Rick Arthur, Dan Berger, and Michael Dooney. Checking out the spine, matching with the other two volumes, of course. And then here we have the back. So this collects the 13-part epic finale of the Turtles. That is the second half of this compendium. The first half are kind of like one-shots and one-offs that we'll talk about here shortly. Again, retailing $150, which is kind of insane, but it's a good thing that you can get it heavily discounted from organicpricebooks.com. Great packaging, fast shipping. You can save an additional $2 by using code GemMint at checkout. They're also having a huge sale right now with a ton of books, 50% off. Or if you're overseas, check out comicsbugle.com. Not only do they have great packaging, it's packaging made from recyclable materials, free shipping, no taxes or import fees if you're within the EU. Use code GemMint on your first purchase to save $5 and continue to make purchases from there, and you'll build up rewards points, which will lead to some free books. No biggie on the compendium. You just have Raphael here, TMNT, Compendium 3, black on the back, got the green ribbon, don't lose your place. And let's jump into it. So, white cover pages. You've got some artwork here in the beginning. Table of contents. Did I say what issues it collects? It collects issues 38 through 62. You have 38, 39, and 40. Those are by Rich Hedden and Tom McWeeney. That was very much like a cartoonish, kind of like Ren and Stimpy type of arc that I really didn't like, man. It's cows everywhere. What was it with the late 80s and early 90s with UFOs and cows? It was like all the rage, but this was basically like a story that just kind of shoehorned the Turtles in there. Really kind of like inappropriate for kids type of language and scenarios. Look at this. I'm sorry, man. I know that people are fans of these creators, but I just did not like these 3 issues, man. They were kind of rough to get through. Maybe it would have played out better as like a cartoon. Yeah, spaced out. Nothing to tie in with the overarching story. So that's the second part, and then here's part 3. The covers are actually not too bad, though. Kind of zany. Look, cows like whining and dining each other. A lot of sexual innuendos. It's kind of weird, man. But the other little one-shots were actually pretty good. So then we jump into issue 41. So Turtle Dreams. Oh yeah, there you go. Matt Howarth. Kind of like a Doug Funny kind of vibe here. Honestly, I didn't love this one either, guys. I didn't love this one either. If I recall, it just kind of follows all of the Turtles and Splinter around on these kind of goofy little, almost like dream-like episodes that they have, but it's all contained in that one issue. Then we jump on to issue 42, Juliet's Revenge. This one's by Rick McCollum and Bill Anderson. Here we got Casey Jones. He's tied up. You have April O'Neil. Oh, yeah. Savanti. This guy comes back once again. So it is kind of cool how even though they're one-shots and they're one-offs and such, they do build on previous issues from earlier in the run, though. So, yeah, this was like a whacked-out issue. All right, let's keep it moving. All right, issue 43 from January of 1992. Early Paul Jenkins stuff. So you got the Turtles training out in the forest. Always love seeing the dynamic of them training together, being brothers. They're doing this blindfold test to Donatello. He's trying to be one with his senses. All the other Turtles seem to be able to grasp that, and they're able to do it. And then they end up stumbling into this like whole kingdom which materialize in the forest. And it's a big kind of like metaphor for Donatello using his third eye. They meet this little guy, this kind of Pip the Troll kind of character who knows who the Turtles are. And this really deals with gods that were once worshipped and forgotten. And I know this is like a story from the past as well. So it's like the Turtles version of it. But they stumble upon like this hall of legends and tie it into how the Turtles may one day become legends. And it's so crazy because they totally become legends And this is back in 1992. So, I mean, they're already action figures and cartoon series and such. So by the time they're writing this, they're legends in the making. And that's the big reason why Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird didn't do all the heavy lifting, because they were just busy with Turtle Mania and the Turtles blowing up. That ends, little one-off story. Now, this one was cool too. So I feel like a lot of the latter half of this stuff was Raphael-centric. So Raphael, he meets this girl and they're sparring in the sewers. This one's Rick Arthur and Mark McCurry. She's tough, man. Raph cannot beat her, but this is kind of like his private little thing. He stops training with his brothers and he's just training with this girl. They really write her in such like a hip hop, New York, early 90s type of way. Lucindra was her name. So she's a badass character, even though she's rolling around in the sewers on the ground fighting with Raph. Now you can see her back in the city. It's very New York City. The other brothers want to know, where's he going? Why is he not training with them anymore? Then they get into it with the Foot Clan. This is where it started to pick up for me. Raph gets injured. She ends up meeting the rest of the Turtles along with Master Splinter. Raph's always meeting these outsiders. Casey Jones, Lucindra. Boom, wraparound cover here. Now it starts to get good, man. So here we go. Turtles again in the sewer. It's kind of like an homage to issue 1 with this double page spread. This is the Dan Berger issue. They're in the streets of New York. This is the sequel to the Leatherhead story. So you have all these kind of whacked out mutants, which is pretty cool. Crazy Foot Clan messing around in the sewers, breaking into the Turtles' old hideout. Leatherhead, the big alligator mutant, is down there. The Turtles end up going back down into the sewers, and they see that these mutated Foot Clan soldiers are in the sewer. So that starts a big fight. Leatherhead comes out, of course. He's going crazy. So Leatherhead wants to go back where the Utroms are from, those Krang type of aliens that created him. He wants to go home to them. So he's been building a device. Then here goes the fight scenes with the foot. Yeah, and this one just kind of ends. Really, it doesn't feel important because it's just like a one-off. All right, on to issue 46. This is the one by Michael Dooney, Masks. Okay, so Japan 1373. See, like straight Turtles in Time style. You've got this guy Choate. He's kind of like a Triceraton, but he's a different kind of beast. He's like a samurai. This is his master that he's working for. Then we flash to current times in Massachusetts, 1992. We've got the Turtles. So they're chilling there. This guy crashes through. He gets jumped. It's Hattatori. You'll remember him from, I think it's Hardcover Compendium Volume 1, where he was first introduced. So this is another one of those one-shots that ties in with something that they've established in previous issues. Renee, the time traveler, scantily clad. So they end up going back to the past. They have to take down Choate and his master. You get the Turtles in feudal Japan. They're fighting this beast, almost like dinosaur type creature. He fails and has to come back to his master to tell him that he wasn't able to get this scepter. Issue 47 is a continuation of that story. It turns out that that scepter belongs to him and he's trying to get the scepter back. And it all ties into the Turtles going back in time in one of those earlier issues, and what they did ended up messing up the events of the future. He's got the scepter. This is where we find out that it's not Renee's scepter, that it was actually his. So he's fighting with the Turtles. Oh, yeah. This ends up being that same guy, Savanti Romero. He's been in and out of these like one-offs for the whole time. All right, but then we get into Shades of Grey. So this is, man, Shades of Grey was dope. So before we get into that whole City of War 13 part, we have a Casey Jones story where he's patrolling. He gets into it with some kids and he accidentally kills one of them, man. So this was like a heavy issue. He hits the kid's not moving. He accidentally killed him, man. He's dead. So then you have Casey Jones and another character that was introduced early on in these one-shots, the cop/vigilante. I forget what his name was. He gets into it with him. Casey Jones at the cemetery. He feels terrible about what happened. Of course, he doesn't mean to kill people. So it was a pretty deep issue, and he has to persuade the cop that he's actually a good guy and this was just an accident, and don't you kill people in the line of duty as well, and you're also a vigilante. Another multi-part story, April O'Neil. So it's kind of weird because they went back to New York, but then they're back out here at the farm. This is where April starts talking about she's been talking with her sister Robin, and that's going to play a part when you get into the last story. And April kind of feels like everybody's being mean to her, like Splinter's being mean to her. Her and Casey Jones' relationship has fallen apart. And I think everyone's just too busy for her. That's what's going to lead April to leave and go to California with her sister. I don't think I mentioned, but A.C. Farleyy is the guy who did the Shades of Grey stuff. So here's the cop, vigilante guy. He sees Casey Jones in the park, and they finally get to talk it out and determine that, the cop's not going to stop Casey Jones from doing what he's got to do. And then we get to the real deal, the meat and potatoes, the last arc of the Mirage run, City of War, Part 1 of 13. MegaCon has come and gone, and if you missed out on any of the MegaCon exclusives, you got to check out That Spider-Man booth over on Whatnot. They've got the Absolute Batman Rose Besh exclusive. They've got the Wonder Woman Ryan Otley exclusive. That Spider-Man booth over on Whatnot. Make sure that you not only follow them, but bookmark their upcoming shows. They do multiple shows per week. The first issue was almost a silent issue. Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. You got Splinter out here in the park. Here's the city. This guy, we got to keep an eye on him. Kind of just like a little side story, but he lives underneath this sex store, which is kind of weird. Flashing to Casey Jones, flashing to the Turtles, just kind of seeing where everybody's at. Again, with very little dialogue. We see somebody's got an explosive device. Here's April leaving New York City. She's moving to California to be with her sister Robin. Here's the guy that lives in the apartment under this sex store. He's just some regular guy. Splinter's in the woods. April's leaving. The Turtles are just chilling. Everybody is basically split apart, going their own way, doing their own thing. New York City with the Twin Towers. We can see what looks like, Foot Clan members. Yeah, the Foot is back. You can see that there's a lot of them. And they have a new master, which looks like Shredder. We end up finding out, it's not Shredder. He's died twice already. But you have the Shredder Elite, the Foot Clan Elite, these personal guards of the Shredder who are kind of like Ronin now as well. And they're leading the Foot. The art is incredible, though, man. Here's this guy just chilling in his apartment. But that explosive device, tick, 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 boom, blows up. All of the pieces are shattered, just like our characters, all split apart. And then that's going to be the end of Part 1, jumping into Part 2, which is issue 51. The city's going crazy. You have the emergence of the Foot Clan. There's crime going rampant everywhere. Here's showing the split between Casey Jones and April O'Neil. He goes to this diner called Graham's, and he meets this woman here, which ends up playing a huge role in this story. She just kind of humors Casey Jones as he's eating food. I think he gets like 3 cheeseburgers. And it was super cheap as well, man. It was like, damn. Casey Jones was originally going to be leaving and going to California as well, to Los Angeles, but he doesn't go. Here's April, so she's hanging out with her sister. She ends up hating the West Coast. Here's the sex shop that was blown up, and here's the guy that was living there. He's in the hospital now. And that's kind of only the really role that we see. I guess it just kind of symbolizes like the innocent people getting hurt. Casey Jones gets jumped outside of the diner, and he gets his car stolen from him. Gabrielle or Gabby or Gabe, I think he ends up calling her. She ends up coming out there to help Casey Jones, who is beaten on the floor. She actually takes him in, but we'll see that a little bit later. Here we have the Turtles. They're investigating the explosion and all the rampant crimes. April coming home from the night out with her sister. So the Turtles see some kids just knocking down trash cans. They've been reduced to the neighborhood watch. They're not really feeling it. All right, keeping it moving. So now you have Casey Jones at Gabrielle's house. She has to go to work, so he hangs out at her trailer when she goes. Does a little bit of soul searching. April O'Neil is reading the New York Times. She sees about the gang wars that's going on there, flashing back to the night where the antique store burnt down. Her sister snaps her out of it. So Gabriel comes back home, and Casey Jones has cleaned up. He's cooked her some food. They start getting a little bit more intimate. Then we flash to Tokyo, Japan, and we see Karai, the leader of the Foot Clan in Japan. That's going to play a major role. Back in New York City, the Turtles are fighting some punks. That guy's still in the hospital from the explosion. We have the Foot Clan with some new robotic henchmen. So this kind of like alien-looking mouser terrorizing the streets there, giving the Turtles something to do more than just fighting regular punks and criminals. Couple double-page spreads of action here. There are even more of these robots, so Turtles got their work cut out for them. Then the Foot Clan shows up, and we see the first Shredder Elite. All right, issue 53, Shredder Elite on the front. Splinter's still out there meditating in the forest, California, with April and Robin. She doesn't like how people dress. She doesn't like the food out there. She's ready to get the hell out of California and go back to New York. Here goes Casey Jones having a nightmare about April. Gabby is Gabriella, right? So here's where she tells him that she's actually pregnant, which was kind of weird, and asking if he's going to leave her, but he decides to stay with her. They're in a relationship now. She's pregnant from, I guess, a prior relationship. Foot soldiers blowing up cop cars with bazookas. Somebody takes them down. And then we got an all-out war. The Foot, the police, the Turtles. The city is looking like a war zone. And that's when Karai determines it's time for her to go to New York and take over the Foot Clan over there. All right, issue 54, part 5 of 13. Got Casey Jones. He's now working at the diner. He's not really falling in line with having a boss. He ends up putting a bag over his head and punching him. And he thinks he does the right thing by coming back to apologize. But the guy's like, man, what are you talking about? Get the hell out of here. He's trying to be a father to his new girl's kid. You know, he's trying to do the right thing. Here's April at work. One of her colleagues is trying to hit on her and ask her out. Splinter's on this whole soul searching thing. He ends up going on this familiar platform, this building, and falls down and breaks his leg. And then he gets visited by, ironically, the Rat King. So we'll see that in a moment. April and Robin. Here's the Rat King. It's going to descend down on the Splinter. Karai flying in from Japan, basically catching up on everything that's going on here. She finds out that there's turtles and mutants fighting there as well. You remember the scene because it kind of reminded me of like from Wolverine Origins where Wolverine fights Deadpool. So he broke his leg. He's stuck there. Another shot of the Shredder Elite destroying buildings and such. Turtles are hearing it all over the news. The violence just keeps on escalating. He goes the Rat King jumping in on Splinter. Karai has touched down, taking the helicopter into the city, overlooking the city. Got the Chrysler Building, Empire State Building. Now Gabrielle, she's starting to show. Casey Jones, again, just trying to do the right thing, be her man. April O'Neil went out with the coworker and she didn't appreciate his advances. The Splinter stuff was kind of crazy, man. He's not strong enough to get up and walk around, even though he's put a splint, funny enough, on his leg. He gets visited by the Rat King and convinces him he needs to eat the rats that are scurrying around for sustenance so that he can survive. Convinces him to do so because rats do the same thing. They eat their own if they need to. The Turtles out on patrol finally run into one of the elite guards. We see this fight scene between Raph and him. So Raph's able to take him down. He commits seppuku, how do you say it? Harakiri. And that's when we first see that it's the Rat King that is talking to Splinter. Next issue, issue 56. April's still in Cali. She's ready to get the hell out of here. Casey Jones gets hitched to Gabrielle. Shotgun wedding. So that's that. Trying to make a little honeymoon out of it. Here's Splinter trying to nurse himself to health. This whole psychological warfare he's having with the Rat King. Here's Rat King trying to get Splinter to eat rats. In the streets of New York, you got the Foot versus the Turtles. They've got weapons. Then you got Karai. Now she's going to jump into the mix. She's got the bow and arrow. Leaves a message for the Turtles on how to get a hold of them. April and Robin's father passes away. So that's something that they mention a little bit in this story about their father. And then he dies. He goes to issue 57, part 8 of 13. So they end up calling Karai and they meet up with her and they find out that she's not really out to get them. She tells them what her intentions are with taking over the Foot Clan, explains to them who the Shredder guards are. Casey Jones and Gabrielle, she's showing even more now. He's trying to find them a house where they can live together. Here goes the funeral for April's father. And that's when she decides she needs to get back to New York. The Rat King turns into some monstrous rat. It ends up being that it was all in Splinter's mind. So he decides to finally eat one of the rats, get his strength up so that he can escape this little building here. Here we see the other Shredder guards. Now we realize that there are more than one, and now they're jumping down into the city. Part 9 right here. Casey Jones and Gabrielle, they're going to be a real family. But Casey Jones is just daydreaming. He's in the park with her, and like this roided out version of Casey Jones comes in and beats him up, but he's just daydreaming in there in the doctor's office. And Gabrielle has her baby, but Gabrielle dies while having the baby. The doctor has to tell Casey Jones that she didn't make it. So now Casey Jones has this child that he's taking care of, and his wife is dead. This is crazy, man. So April's dad dies. Casey Jones' new wife dies. The Turtles are discouraged. This whole city at war thing, they don't know if they can handle it. Splinter is finally getting strong enough to where he can leave. Our guy in the hospital is starting to recover a little bit. Turtles on the streets. You got dead foot soldiers. Karai's aide gets killed. April and Robin's father had some money, so they were left an inheritance. They got $250,000 each. So April's going to take that and go back to New York City. Here's Casey Jones just doing some more soul searching, a little bit of off-roading to spread his wife's ashes. Man, part 10 of 13. Turtles are working on a master plan. You got the Foot Clan running rampant throughout New York City, the Shredder guards, the elites. Casey Jones is back at the diner, and those guys who jumped him when he first got there and stole his car, they're back. So he returns the favor, gets his car back just in time because he thrashed the pickup when he was doing that off-roading. So now Casey Jones has got the whip. He's going to go back to New York City as well. As Splinter's leaving, he sees what looks like the remains of the Rat King. So again, was it all in his head? It must have been. You got Daddy Casey Jones riding out with his new baby. He kind of got the raw deal on that one, right? Karai, she suits up in the traditional Foot Clan garb. And that's going to be the end of this issue where the Turtles are facing the remaining Shredder Elites. Part 11 of 13 here, issue 60. So 3 issues left. Got a big showdown here. This is where the Shredder Elites find out that Karai has come from Japan to fight them. At first I thought it was Shredder, but now you have Karai and the Turtles versus the Foot Clan. Casey Jones goes back to his mother's house, child in hand. Just so happens to be the building that April O'Neil is going to purchase. All right, more Foot versus Turtles. Here's April O'Neil checking out the real estate. Here's our guy in the hospital, getting even better. He's going to be ready to go home soon. Little cliffhanger ending here with one of the guards ready to take out Karai. Here's part 12. Turtles are beating up some of them. Donatello busting out with the Uzi. So yeah, April O'Neil doesn't know Casey Jones' mother, but she's responding to her ad in the paper, and this is where she decides she's going to buy this house. So what's funny is she's like, hey, listen, I got somebody working here for me taking care of the building. Can you keep him on the payroll? He's a really good guy. He could really use the job. She comes down and sees that it's Casey Jones. So then they reunite. The mother's like, what the hell? You still going to buy the building or what? Turtles are still fighting. We're getting to the end of the battle between the Foot and the Turtles. Nice, bloody, brutal scenes. Our guy's getting discharged from the hospital. Fight's over. Karai has survived. The Turtles have survived. And then we have the final issue, issue 62. Casey Jones and April O'Neil gathering all the belongings from the farmhouse. Casey Jones making himself useful. April helping with the baby. You kind of think they're setting up some other kind of evil thing here in the lake, but it just ends up being the Turtles. So now we're reuniting the Turtles with April and with Casey Jones, and the baby's there. Everybody's catching up, talking about what's been going down. And it ends up being that the Turtles and Master Splinter, who now has shown up, they're all going to stay in the building that April purchased from Casey Jones' mother. So it's just a nice, happy ending. April reuniting with Splinter. He calls her his daughter. So I guess they kind of make up. And again, that was like before City of War. So the Shades of Grey is canon, I guess, and ties into this. Our guy from the beginning finally goes back home like nothing happened. And that is the end of the Mirage era of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. All right, guys, that's it. The end of the Mirage era. This compendium, like the entire series, was like half of Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird with the main canon story, and then the other half were kind of one-shots. Stories of the Turtles from years past. Like, looking back at it, I kind of dig that in a sense. Like, we get the main story, which is like what's happening now, but then other adventures that the Turtles have gone through throughout time. Let me know what you think about the end of the Mirage era in the comments down below. Thanks, guys, for watching, and stay minty fresh. Peace.